If you've ever been given the challenge to mix a busy song with a lot of tracks and you find yourself down the rabbit hole figuring out what do I do next, I got the solution for you. In this video, we're going to talk about EQ and how to EQ anything. I'll give you guys my tips on my 4 top EQs that I use on every single mix. This is Alex Pro Mix. Let's go. Hey guys, and what's up? This is Alex from Alex Pro Mix, your favorite channel on YouTube. Everything you need to know about mixing, mastering. I am your coach and you are the hero. That's right. You are the hero producer, you're the hero artist or the engineer. And if you've ever run into any issues with managing busy mixes and everything just starts to sound cluttered and muddy and messy, let's go back to some fundamental steps, which is EQ and balancing. In fact, I just finished publishing a course which is called How to EQ Anything, and I'll leave you guys a link on the bottom of this video. But from that course, I want to take away some tips and techniques that you can start applying to your mixes today. So let's jump right in. Here we go. In this mix, we're going to play the instrumental track and hear what we got going on. So as you can hear, we have a busy mix, and if I open everything up, you're going to see that I have drums, percussions, bass tracks, piano and synths, strings, pads, acoustic and electric guitars, lead guitars, strings, effect returns, and I've hidden the vocals because I thought it would be overwhelming, and I just want to focus on EQing the instruments. Everything's neatly organized into folders, and everything's going to a mix bus, where I have some mix bus processing and a limiter. There are 4 plugins that I use all the time whenever I'm addressing EQ issues. Let me go through them one by one. First of all, let's identify anything in the drums here that we can resolve. Let's go ahead and solo that. All right, so we have some live drums, acoustic drums, and I want to identify any resonant frequencies in the low end, low mids, and the high mids, and then we'll decide what we want to do with the highs. I'll use something like the BX Digital V3. This is one of the oldest plugins in the business. Big up to Dirk Ulrich and the team at Plugin Alliance. And typically what I like to do first is figure out what to roll off on the sub lows. So for that, I'm going to use this low cut. I don't like to use it on 6, I like to use it on 12. I just like to sweep this until I get below the frequency of the kick. Here we go. So somewhere around 30, 32 usually seems to be the sweet spot. If you're not listening to this on headphones, I encourage you guys to put some headphones on or listen through on your studio monitors. The next problematic area typically on acoustic drums is going to be in the low mids, somewhere between 100 and 300. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable this button called Prop EQ. And what happens is that as you increase the gain, that bandwidth gets narrower, as you guys can see that right there. Without it, it's a constant bandwidth, but with it on, I think it's called proportional Q. All right, so I'm gonna boost the gain, sweep around the frequency that I feel is harsh or annoying or muddy on the drums, and then bring that down a bit. Here we go. But I hear some overlapping frequencies on the drums and the toms as well. So we're gonna take that frequency and then bring it down some. Let's do the same with the high mids, somewhere around 2K or 5K. Here we go. It's a good idea to just kind of close your eyes and use your mouse to navigate and isolate the frequency. It's real easy to let your eyes lead you astray and just figure out, oh, this doesn't look right graphically, so you do something, but you're not listening with your ears. So for this, I usually just like find the knob on my mouse and then I just sweep the frequency, and I try to tell myself, like, be honest with myself, okay, what sounds worse, A or B? A or B? A sounds worse, bring that down. Here we go. Okay, right there's a bunch of noise. Let's bring that down. And let's see, typically that does the trick, something in the low, something on the highs, but let's see if there's anything resonant above 5K. Here we go. Yeah, that sounds like a whistle coming from the cymbal, so we're gonna bring that down as well. Cool, and I told you guys, sometimes you don't necessarily need to boost like shelves, you know, it's like if you can find those resonant frequencies, it cleans up the drums. Let's hear that before and after. Okay, the next thing that I want to address is the piano. This is the piano track. And I feel it's having difficulty being noticed in the mix. So what I typically do for that is go ahead and turn off automation. I'll crank it up high. Listen to that with like the guitars, and then I'll EQ those frequencies out. So for the piano, I'll typically go for like an SSL type of EQ. For that, we'll type it in. There are thousands of SSL plugins out there. Use any of them. Essentially, they all do the same thing. 4-band EQ with filters and compression dynamics. All right, so what I'm going to do is basically listen to this piano track against the guitars and then figure out what frequencies are like overlapping and then bring those frequencies down. Same approach as I did with the BX Digital, but just using a different plugin, different results. Here we go. Now, whenever you're boosting or cutting, there is a rule of thirds. So if you want to be really subtle with EQ cuts or boosts, I suggest you start at 1.5. That's like, all right, 1.5, you kind of hear it, but you don't, but it does change something. If you want to be more audible, then 3 cut or 3 dB cut or 3 dB boost. And if you really want to address something surgically, between 6 dB and 9 dB. Those are usually the rules of thirds that work with EQ. And mastering, you have that, so 0.7 dB boost or cut begins to be noticeable. You're like not really sure. You can hear it, but you know something's changed. And then 1.5, that becomes a little bit more obvious. On a full mix, on individual channels, typically between 3 and 9 dB. So there's a free tip for you guys. All right, the third plugin that I want to show you guys, which I gravitate towards all the time when EQing, is the Metric Halo channel strip. This is as old as I am. Just kidding, that was a joke. The Metric Halo channel strip, most people don't know about it. I think more recently people have been like finding it, but this is like available on the original Pro Tools TDM system from like the late 90s, early 2000s. So it's got some years, it's got some mileage, but man, it's so good. It's really, really good. I love it, especially on vocals. All right, so let's figure out where we want to use it. Let's check out our guitars. Let's try it on the acoustic guitar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to instantiate that right here, MH channel strip. And then these channels are linked left and right, they're stereo pan, and I can bypass the plugin and it's going to affect both instances. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my volume's not jumping around, so I'm going to coalesce trim automation and then be able to adjust this. All right, so let's crank this up. And let's identify any frequencies that we don't like on the guitars. Typically, that's going to be 4 places: sub-lows, lows, mids, and highs. I know it sounds crazy, but it usually does the trick, especially in a busy mix, and that's what we're talking about in this video. This graphic here on the bottom shows you what frequencies you are adjusting and affecting before and after. So as you can see, I'm basically removing all those nasty frequencies that appear on acoustic instruments, and this is due to a number of things. It could be the mic positioning, the room, the placement, the guitar itself. But anyways, we got to find a way for it in the mix, in a busy mix, and that's how we did it. All right, cool. So those are the guitars. Let's listen to that in context with the other guitars. Here we go. I love that bass one. All right, so let's go ahead and do the bass next. And for that, I'm going to use the fourth EQ plugin that I always find myself using. You have it if you bought it. Pro Q3. There's none like it. Just amazing interface. I can't talk enough about it. You guys know if you own this, like how good it is. All right, so we got the bass guitar. Beautiful graphic display. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the plugin in that sense. I'm just going to use it. All right, so low cut, real easy. Whenever using low cut on low end, it's typically good practice to go higher, like 18 dB cut or 24 dB cut. Whenever you're using a high cut, it's smoother if you use 6 or 12. Anyways, let's find what sub-low information we don't want from the bass. All right, something around 41. So remember, we used a low cut on the drums for the kick, and that's at 32, and this is above that. But this probably can even go higher, like to around 60, but I'm just gonna leave it there for now. Let's go ahead and listen to that. Cool, and everything is in context, so let's listen to that against the drums. Yeah, so these notes right here pop out a lot. Where is this, like around 127? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to level out the notes so that the bass sounds full all the time, not just when it goes in the high register or in the low register. And what's interesting is that when you start scooping out these frequencies, especially on a bass instrument, all of a sudden it just sounds deeper. Lovely. All right, so there you have it, my top recommendations for EQ plugins that work in every mix. These are techniques that you guys can apply to your own mixes, especially if you're dealing with a lot of track counts. You introduce a new instrument, turn it up so you can hear it, isolate those frequencies, target them, bring them down. Remember the 3-to-1 rule. If you want to subtly affect something on EQ, use 1.5 dB boost or cut. If you want to hear it, use 3 dB. If you really want to get rid of it, use between 6 and 9 dB. And that's a free tip for you guys. If you want to learn more about EQ and how to improve your mixes, I encourage you guys to watch my course on how to EQ anything. I'll leave a link here on the video description below. Thank you guys again so much for watching. My name is Alex with Alex Pro Mix. I'll see you guys again real soon. Peace.